Hi, Miscellaneous here, taking you to yet another interesting and quirky tourist attraction. I'm in the Isles of Scilly this week, and today I've been to St Martin's. It is said that you can see Cornwall from the Daymark there. Is this true? Come walk with me and let's find out. And don't forget to hit like and don't forget to hit subscribe.
Each inhabited Isles of Scilly island has its own kind of unique selling point. St Martin's is definitely about its magnificent beaches. The tropical white sands and clear turquoise sea are enough to rival anything abroad. St Martin's is to the north of the map, in pale pink. We landed at Higher Town Quay, which is actually further south than Lower Town Quay, and stepped off the slipway overlooking wonderful Par Beach. Just to reiterate, I've been to the Isles of Scilly 3 times, once for a day trip and twice for holidays. I've been to St Martin's twice. I took this photo while standing on the gorgeous sands. The 3 main segments of the island are Higher Town, Middle Town and Lower Town. That first time, we walked from Higher Town Quay and down the main road to Lower Town Quay where we were getting picked up. The second time was different. We arrived at Lower Town Quay and got picked up at Lower Town Quay. This was because the tides were low. Remember, the Isles of Scilly are totally governed by the tides. Standing on the beach and looking down to the Eastern Isles, and birdwatching boat tours regularly run around that section of the archipelago. This is a view out as we climbed the path and looked back over the water. This is going to be another photo montage, using mainly photos I took in 2022. My videography in 2023 was rather naff. I did manage to get some stills from it though, although I heavily doctored them. A cow minding its own business, with St Mary's and Tresco over the water behind it. An old cannon and a compass stone overlooking the water. I believe the building to the left is the public Kazi, but it is situated in quite a picturesque setting. The view right, and that first time we turned left rather than right, as it looked like there was more to see that way. It was a bit of a mistake, because it meant that I missed out on quite a lot. Oh well, just as well that I came back. The Daymark is 11 metres, that's 36 feet high, and 4.8 metres, that's 16 feet in diameter, and is made of rendered granite. It sits on the highest part of St Martin's and, on a good day, you can see over to the mainland from it. I only found out that latter fact after I was home. I decided that it was enough for me to see the Daymark and that I didn't actually need to touch it. After that first trip over to St Martin's, I could have kicked myself. Daymarks are a navigational aid for sailors and pilots and are painted distinctively to maximise their daylight visibility. This is the oldest surviving Daymark in the country. St Martin's Stores and Post Office was actually closed both of the times we were on the island. On our first trip, we carried on through Middletown onto Lower Town. It was only on our second trip that we headed northwards towards the Daymark, past places like this church. Unfortunately, these photos are stills taken from my videography, which came out very much overexposed. I played around with them as much as I can. I thought all of my church photos looked better once I'd put them through a black and white filter. It gives them an almost spooky, atmospheric, ethereal appeal. This Anglican church was built in 1683 by Thomas Eakins, the Godolphin steward. It was enlarged by Reverend George Woodley in 1821. It was rebuilt in 1866 by Augustus Smith after having been seriously damaged by lightning. It is now a Grade 2 listed building. This lovely frog was at the end of the lane that leads up to the school. Honesty boxes abound across the island. This one appears to contain pamphlets and some fresh produce. The second red phone box that we chanced across, although we didn't check to see if this one was working. The Island Bakery is also in this area and apparently do wonderful crab sandwiches. Unfortunately, on this day, it was well and truly closed. This is someone's gate and I just had to take a picture of it as I adored the rustic little entrance bridge. We had to sidle around small lanes around a field of bulls, kept inside by means of an electric fence. They couldn't have been less interested in us. We trudged along, And you'll often hear me say, come and take a walk in my shoes. Why is this, you may wonder? Well, I'm a real shoe fetishist. I love my heels and have around 40 pairs, so I'm not quite as bad as Imelda Marcos. This day, though, I was not in heels. Needs must. We turned a corner, and it always helps if you can actually see where you're going. It was a very foggy day. You can see my paw in the corner of the picture, pointing to what I can see of the Daymark way in the distance. On our 2022 visit to St Martin's, the weather was glorious. When we went in 2023, however, it was really drizzly and misty as we made our long hike upwards towards the Daymark. This Daymark was erected in 1683 by Thomas Eakins, the first steward of the governing Godolphin family to live on the islands. Its block door incorrectly states the date as 1637. I went and stood here, right on the edge of the headland, and peered out. Could I see Cornwall? You have got to be joking. On this particular day, I could barely see the sea below. Incidentally, we went up on deck on the Scilly a few days later when we left the islands. I could see the Daymark behind us, and way ahead on the horizon there was this grey smudge. This photo shows the state of the sky as we left St Mary's. It was a mixture of bluish-grey stripes, so I didn't know if that smudge ahead was land or not. But as we got closer, that shape clearly morphed into Cornwall. Apparently monks looked after a fire beacon from around the 15th century. Pre-Daymark, this acted as a navigational aid. The monks would have lived and worshipped around this area, and the foundations of an early Christian chapel are visible early on in the season, before the heather has had a chance to grow voraciously. The building remains you see here are of a Napoleonic signal station. St Martin's vineyard produces red, white and rosé wine. We thought we'd pop in and have a glass of wine, or maybe even a pint of cider, but both the proprietor and this sign wanted to send us to the left. I think he thought we wanted to do a vineyard tour, which we weren't against, but what we really wanted was a drink. Anyway, we couldn't find this entrance to the left, so slightly confused, we just gave up and left. The road might look lengthy from this angle, but it isn't. The island is only 2 miles long by about a quarter of a mile wide, and only 136 people reside here. Maybe I've tackled this vlog in a convoluted manner. This was actually the first phone box I saw during my second visit to the island, and the only phone box I saw during my first visit. It's on the walk between Higher Town Quay and Lower Town Quay, and Dean did go and check for a dialing tone, and there was one. Middletown Barn, with its glorious sunflowers outside. Middletown Barn has an enclosed honesty shop, and I saw a variety of artefacts on sale there, from ceramics to toiletries to pictures and these beautiful little chaps. Aren't they cute? Silly me at first thought this was some kind of mini runway, but on closer inspection it's a clocher, covering whatever fruit, vegetables or flowers are growing there. Bouffant hydrangeas next to this greenhouse in Middletown. Hydrangeas remind me of being a kid. We had them in our garden. This is the Island Hall, and a coffee morning was going on inside. This very handy map was on the front of the Island Hall. Outside the hall is this movable sculpture called Luna. It's by artist Luke Duran. Remember to hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, and click on the notifications bell. You also might want to check out my blog. The link is on my page. The Karma St Martin's Hotel is refined and exclusive. Rooms start at £197 per night, autumn rates. My favourite succulent, the Aeonium, outside the Karma Hotel. To me they just look like big stiff roses. The beautiful view from their terrace overlooks Team, St Helens, the Round Island Lighthouse and Tresco. Lower Town Quay follows on from this track with a view overlooking Tresco. To the left of the photo is the old blockhouse on Tresco. It was built between 1548 and 1554 and acted as a defensive fort to protect adjacent Old Grimsby Harbour. Lots of little friends decided to join us, but I wasn't sure which breed they were. Could they have been some kind of martin? Quite appropriate. Or a tit, or a swallow even. I've since learnt that these abundant birds are called turnstones. Round Island Lighthouse was built in 1887 and sits atop a lump of granite. It is one of 6 lighthouses associated with the Isles of Scilly, the others being the aforementioned Daymark, Bishop Rock, Wolf Rock, Peninis and St Agnes. The Seven Stones Inn is the only pub on the island, and we sat and chilled out with a glass of cider. We nipped outside, and this area underneath the tree is being utilised as a children's play area. Overlooking the neck of the pool from Seven Stones Inn Beer Garden, low tides meant it was possible to see various ledges popping up. Incidentally, if we'd have wanted to walk over to the north side of the island, then White Island was accessible, as the low tides meant that the causeway was uncovered. The path up to the Seven Stones Inn from the main road which splices the island in half. I have to say I found some of the names fascinating on this island. To the north you've got Bread and Cheese Cove. You've also got Wine Cove. This lively chicken was certainly making its presence felt as we made our way to Lower Town Quay and the boat. Overlooking Teen, which is also popular with birdwatchers due to the presence of puffins, and St Helens, which was once a pest house to receive patients from quarantined ships. Lower Town Quay is nothing more than a slipway. At first we didn't believe it was an adequate pick-up point, but it was, and if people are visiting an uninhabited island for whatever reason, then they will get a landing directly onto a beach via a gangplank. I did wonder why there were pieces of glass on the beach, until I poked one and realised it was a jellyfish. Thankfully I didn't brush against a tentacle. Here's a close-up of one of our marine friends, and they didn't put me off having a paddle that first time on the island. The water was warm enough for me to want a swim that day once we were back on St Mary's. I think this photograph of the Super Dean walking down Lower Town Quay has a real air of loneliness about it, with the shallow, low-tide water in the background. I do hope you've enjoyed the video. Don't forget to check out my other Isles of Scilly videos. Until then, ta-ta for now.
Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Remember, don't forget to hit that like button. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button.